I have a set of templates from Sweetly Unique. These templates are for her Clearly Sweet pencil pouch. I also have this roll of clear vinyl from K&A Custom Fabrics. I am going to take this clear vinyl and this set of templates, and I'm going to make 3 different pouches. I'm going to be using sewing string from Wizardry, and I'm going to be using zipper tape from Sew Majestic. These pouches, I've made them before. I've made them also with not only clear vinyl, but other things. They come together really quick, and they're just fun to make. This print is beautiful, and as soon as I saw it, I thought, okay, that is gorgeous. I love the colors on it. I know I'm going to make more things with it, but first things first, I want to make some pencil pouches. I'm not going to be using them as pencil pouches. I'm going to be using them for storage and organization around my sewing room and things like that, just to keep things a little bit more organized. So let's go ahead and get started making this. I'm first going to cut everything out, and then I'll come back to show you what those pieces look like. So I have everything cut out. First thing is we're going to be making a mini pencil pouch. This will be the smallest version. Then I'm going to make the original, which is the largest one-piece version. And then I also am going to be making out a version that's going to be the same size as the large, but this is for a directional print. So this is the one I really should only be making because my print is directional. So on this one, half of mine will be upside down. It's okay. I just wanted to show how these are made and how they're different and similar, just all the things about them. But these templates make it so easy to cut it out. She actually, just to show you, has those notches on there so that you can take your rotary cutter and go all the way to the notch. You don't have to cut around these with scissors. You get to use the rotary cutter still. When you're working with clear vinyl, the best way to do it is to use your rotary cutter. The way I like to do it is I like to use masking tape and actually tape down the roll of clear vinyl and then put the template on top, cut it with the rotary cutter. That is the way I feel like I get the most precise cuts with clear vinyl. So I'm going to grab my zipper pulls and cut out the zipper tape, and then we'll quickly sew all these up. I have all the pieces cut out, everything prepped. I'm ready to start sewing. The first thing I'm going to sew is the pouch that is for directional prints. This one has 2 pieces. This is the only one that I'm doing that has 2 pieces. So I'm going to make this 1 piece, and so then the rest of them will be all the same. There won't be any difference in between them. What I need to do is I need to make for sure that I'm going to have these end up being the right way. You can also see that there is a difference in this size and this size. You might not be able to see it clearly on camera, but it definitely is. The top portion is the smaller one. The template clearly marks that. So it's easier to kind of know when you're looking at the template, but this is the way my pouch is going to look at the end. So what I do is I just flip them on top of each other. So I'm just going to line up the side and the bottom. And this is a TPU. TPU is a little bit stickier than a PVC, but it's also much softer. It's a lot easier to work with. Speaking of sewing on TPU or clear vinyl in general, everybody has different tips and tricks. What I do is I crank up my tension all the way. I have my tension all the way to about a 4. Then my foot, the pressure on the foot, I raise it up as high as it'll go, so there is very little pressure on my foot. So the foot is not pushing down hard on the vinyl, it's just barely sitting on it. This helps me to get the best stitch on this. Something else I'll do is I will kind of hold this vinyl up because it has a tendency to stick to the bed sometimes, and that'll just help it. This one's not a really sticky one because it has a very busy print. When you see a print like this, whenever you see all the back on it, there's very little true clear that'll be against your machine, and that will help it to not stick as much. If you have trouble with sewing clear vinyl, try to get a very busy print and see if your machine will do it a little bit better. But those are some tips I use. Another thing is where my foot is kind of small, there's less contact that it has with the vinyl as well. I know a lot of people use a Teflon foot. I don't. I feel this way does fine. But when you're sewing your clear vinyl, if you're having any problems with looping on the back, like when you turn it over and it looks just like a crazy bird's nest on this other side, raise that tension. Take that tension up, pull out your manual and figure out, if you don't know how, to raise that tension, and that will usually help. I'm just sewing across the bottom very slowly. I don't rush this. After I have that sewn together, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open it up. I'm going to butterfly this seam, and then I'm going to sew top stitch down both sides of that seam. This is not a necessary step, and it can be very frustrating if your machine doesn't like clear vinyl, but I really feel like it helps get a good lay on this bag. I'm just going to sew 1/8 of an inch down each side of that seam. You can see that I have these two pieces sewn together and top stitch on both sides. Now all of these look the same. These two should be about the same size even, and they are. So now we have these two that are exactly the same, and then we have the one little mini piece. All of these are going to be sewn the same way, so I'm not going to show you each step on all of these just because it would be boring and a waste of your time. These are going to be our side pieces. That's going to be what boxes our corners. So our zippers are going to go across the top and across the bottom. We're going to separate those zippers. And the best way to do this is to go ahead and mark your center on both the zipper and this panel piece. So that way whenever you're putting the zipper back together, you know you have it done evenly and correctly. I'm not going to snip into mine. I'm just going to use this marking tool to mark the centers on my zippers. So to mark the center on the clear vinyl, I'm just going to use a clip. So I'm just folding this to mark the centers here. And I'll go ahead and separate my zipper tape. And I'm going to take my zipper and the edge without the teeth, and I'm going to place it right sides together with my vinyl. I'm going to match up those center marks. I'm going to show you a little trick to make sure that your zipper tape hides this raw edge of the vinyl. So what you do is you just shift your zipper tape to where it is about 1/8 of an inch hanging off the edge of the vinyl. So you can see here's the vinyl, here's that zipper tape just a little bit. I'm going to sew with the same seam allowance for the clear vinyl. And this way, whenever I flip it to top stitch it, the zipper tape will hide that raw edge. So let's go ahead and get that on there, and you'll just shift the tape 1/8 of an inch the entire way down. You'll just be sewing and see that little bit hanging off. So this is what I have. I don't know if you can tell, but I have that zipper tape just hanging over the edge just a little bit. So now what I want to do is I'm going to flip that seam down. Just kind of finger press it into place. And now you can see that you do not see the raw edge of the vinyl. It's underneath. You're only seeing that zipper tape. So when you put your hand in here to get something out, you won't be scratched, or you won't feel or see that clear vinyl. You'll just see the finished edge of the zipper tape. So this is a way, if you don't want to see the raw edge, you can hide it there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip this over and sew from the right side, making sure that I'm pushing and going slow, because your zipper tape, you can see it flipping up. It's going to want to keep flipping up. So I want to keep everything nice and flat. So I'll use my hands to just kind of hold it down right before I stitch over each spot. Here's the way that looks from the front. We flip it over and you can see no raw edge of the clear vinyl. You just see the zipper tape. I'm going to do that on all of these. So I'm going to sew that on the bottom of this one and on both sides of my directional pouch and the mini pouch. So when I come back, all these zippers will be attached. I have sewn the zippers on all of the pouches. So now what I'm going to do is go to the next step, which is to take one of these, and they're all going to be the same way, and you're just going to fold it so that you're looking at the wrong side. The exterior will be inside at this point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a clip here on the edge to hold this in place, and I'm going to start adding the zipper pulls. I'm choosing to add 2 zipper pulls, but you could add only 1 if you like. It is your preference as to however you prefer your pouches to be. Once you have it clipped together, just make sure your zipper is about the same length so that you can add the pull easily. Take your zipper pull and you're going to insert it upside down. So make sure you're looking at the wrong side of your zipper, and it's going to go on the same way. If you have any trouble, you could do it the other way to where you're looking at and then just flip it inside out. Okay, so I have that ready to go on. Just going to put it in there. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side and let my zipper, both of them meet in the middle. If you only want one, I suggest you go ahead and take this one off so that it's closed and then put it back on. It's much easier to do this pouch if both ends are closed. So I'm going to do that same thing for all of the pouches. Before I go on to do those, I'm going to go ahead and do the next step, which is to baste on the pull tabs onto my zipper. The pull tabs, for me, I'm just making them out of webbing. You can use whatever you want. You can make them out of vinyl. You can make it use a double folded piece of fabric. You could even cut off a piece of clear vinyl and use it. So it's whichever way you want to use it. Cut it according to the pattern measurements and then just fold the raw edges together. You are going to center onto the zipper tape. You want the raw edges to be on the outside, and then you want that folded edge going towards the inside. You're just going to baste this in place, and you can fold this out of the way if you need to, but I'm just going to kind of squeeze it in there and get that basted in place. Take your time to make sure that that webbing is straight across. It will be pretty noticeable if you have it really crooked. At this point, you could trim up your extra zipper tape because everything's solid and stabilized now. You're going to add the zipper pulls to all the pouches, and then you will put the pull tabs on both sides of each pouch. The pull tabs are optional, but I highly suggest them. Well, anytime I don't have a pouch with them on, it is very hard to open and close it, and it even kind of, you have to crumple the bag, and so it just doesn't even look good after a while. I'm going to add all those on, and then we'll come back for the next steps. So I have my 3 pouches with the zipper tape, the pulls, and the pull tabs all attached. This next step is super simple. You just close up that end, so you're just putting the right sides together of these ends, and you're going to sew across. You should still have the opening here. This is where we're going to box the corners. So I match up the edges as best you can. There could be possibility, depending on how wide your tape is, that there's a little bit of overhang, but just get them matched up as good as you can, and then sew across with the seam allowance given in the pattern. Back stitch when you start and stop. And this is what it looks like whenever you have that sewn across. What you do then is you need to find the center here. What I do is I usually put a clip because I'll lose it once I start opening it up. And then I butterfly this seam. I just finger press, that's all I do. And then I flatten this out so that I can match them up. I'll come over to this other side and I completely smash it down so I can get a really nice straight line. You'll usually have to kind of make sure that everything is lining up properly and it's all even. You want this bottom edge to be straight and flat. Take it over the machine again, and then sew across here with the seam allowance given the pattern, making sure that you backstitch when you start and stop. If you're uncomfortable with the stitches and if you're afraid that it might be gapping, you could even do another row of stitches 1/8 of an inch away from that first row if you want to. So I'll show you. You would not go above the seam allowance, but you would go below it. We don't want to sew back and forth too many times on the clear vinyl, because every time you put your needle through the clear vinyl, it's just perforating it, making a hole, and you could cause weakness to form in the clear vinyl by putting too many holes in it. So what I did was I just had the 2 rows of stitches. This is the seam allowance, and then this one is just going to be an extra securing stitch. But what you're going to do now is you're going to repeat the same step on this side to box that corner. Then you'll come over on this side, match these edges up, sew, and then box the corners. You'll do that for all the pouches, and then the last thing we'll do is just turn it out, and then it'll be done. I have all 3 of the pouches done. I just have to turn them right sides out and maybe take a few minutes to shape them, and then they're good to go. All of my pouches are done. They are so cute. This little small one is probably my favorite. It is adorable. So this is the small one. This is the directional one. So both of the directions are going the correct way, and there is the seam at the bottom. And this is the one piece. So one side looks great and the other side is upside down. No seam on this one. I love all of these, and they are all super fun to make. You can see how quick they are. I highly recommend this pattern. I also recommend the templates because they just make it even easier. I've used this pattern several times just because I have the templates. It's easy to grab them and sew a really quick gift. This can be cut out, especially if you're doing the one-piece one. It can be cut out and sewn within 30 minutes for sure. There's no interfacing. There's nothing that you really need to do. Great for a last-minute gift, and they are super cute. Thank you so much for watching another tutorial of mine. I hope today in your sewing room you're able to sew something up that's quick, fun, and colorful, and you just have a great day sewing. Thanks so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day today.